Well, this one's going to be a lot of little tidbits. I tell you, I've got oodles of things to show you. And you may not have seen some of these in the news. I've got everything from France to riots to Fredo al fresco. So stick with me, folks, and I'll be with you in a minute. Hey everybody, this is Deb with Truthification Chronicles, and yeah, I've got tons of tabs open. This is going to be kind of a whirlwind. I'm not going to spend too much time on any one of them, so here we go. The first one is this. I thought this was a really nice thing to have, especially since we just celebrated D-Day. And if you've never been to France and seen this American cemetery there, it is something that if you at all possible can do that, do it. Because it just impacts you so much. I remember standing there and seeing all these crosses as far as you can see. You see them all. And it just really drives home, the sacrifice that was made for us to be able to live as we do, even in this crazy time that we have. So I wanted to share this with you. Every year in France, there's a ceremony that rarely makes headlines. Ordinary people and families collect sand from Omaha Beach, where Americans lost 2,400 lives on D-Day. Then they use it to fill in the letters on their tombstones of the fallen. And so they go through and they do that, and that's what they're doing here in this. They just rub the sand in, and then they brush it off so it stays in the depths, and there you go. I just think that is such a sweet thing to do, and they do that for all of the crosses. I think it's wonderful. So I wanted to share that with you. Always good to start out with something very positive, especially with everything that's going on in the world. And then I wanted to show you this because this is kind of humorous. This is Alexandria OcasioCortez, and she says, press secretary, that's Kaleigh McEnany, wouldn't be the first person to mistake a woman of color, for having a lower position or title than she does. But Kaleigh, in case you haven't picked up a newspaper in 2 years, I'm a congresswoman. Okay, and that was in response to this post by Jake Sherman, who said Kaleigh had said from the podium, Biden advisor Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Okay, well, here was Kaleigh's response. Read the transcript, Congresswoman. Because she did. She said, yeah, it's a really good question. The president is appalled by the defund the police movement. The fact that you have sitting congresswomen wanting to defund the police, notably Rashid Tlaib, notably Biden advisor AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, former Clinton and Eric Holder spokesperson Brian Fallon wanting to defund our police across this country, it is extraordinary. So see, she did. She gave her both titles. Oh, they complain about everything. Okay, and then I wanted to show you this because I don't know if you know this YouTuber, but he went to a rally. It was supposed to be a unity rally, and he went there, but he did it very nicely. I'm not going to play the video because it's his video, but, he went there. He went to the people kind of in charge, and he said, now look, I want you to understand that I'm here supporting you, protesting this, and everything, and you're having this march for unity, and I want to be part of that because I think that what happened to George Floyd was wrong, and I think that we need to make changes so that doesn't happen again. And he said, but I've got to tell you, I'm a Trump supporter. And so he's, the people were pretty iffy at first, the people that were in charge. And they were like, I don't know, we got a lot of people that are against that. And so he asked if he could go out here, and he gets out there and he says it. And of course, they ran him off. They just chased him away because evidently these very tolerant people didn't want somebody who didn't agree with everything they say. So it was really sad. It's worth watching that video, by the way. Anyway, I wanted to show you this because this is the complete nexus of the BLM Antifa riots communications network on Telegram, which is what I can gather is the messenger of choice. This is from one of the Anons on the board. This list can be found as a sticky on the @BLM protest channel. And then there's a bunch of links down here for the different ones. But basically, this right here, when the rioting starts, please remember, hit the banks, hit the chains, hit the corporation buildings, leave mom and pop shops alone, leave bodegas alone, wear your mask and gloves at all times, have a fallback location to meet up with people if your riots get broken up, do not charge at police, that's movie, they will beat you and have no problems doing so. I mean, that's just rude. Well, you charge them, what do you expect them to do? Stand there and let you bowl them over? Just stupidity. Practice your cardio rigorously at least a week before you're rioting. I highly suggest free running, because you're going to get chased. Think guerrilla warfare over last stand tactics. What makes it harder for government to deal with is longevity. Keep mobile, keep moving, keep unjailed to riot another day. I love you, and no matter what they say, remember that rioting is the language of the unheard. You remember all those riots that all of us conservatives did because our voice was not being heard for 8 years, and actually before that? Yeah, you remember those? Yeah, I don't either. So, that kind of stuff, it's out there, and that's their motive. And then General Flynn's sister put this one up. Obama used national security to spy on Americans opposed to Islamic terrorists. And this is an article from Front Page Magazine. Here it is. And I'll leave the link down below so you can get it. But yeah, this is what he did. And he went through, and anybody that basically was opposed to him, he used spying tactics on. And this was the problem. This was something that Admiral Rogers ended up finding out about, and that's why he was so upset about it, because they were going around the NSA leadership, which was him, and they were getting into the NSA database. They had contractors that were doing it. And so he was very upset about that, as he should have been, but the FISA court really did not do much about it, it seems like. Anyway, so this is a really good article here for you to read. But it says we don't know exactly when it started. I mean, we know now where it ended. I don't want to put it up there because you don't want to see his picture, right? But we don't know exactly when this went on. I mean, when did all the spying start? Because we do know right now that it's no longer going on. But, when did it happen? And there were members of Congress that were being eavesdropped on. There were, Flynn was part of this because Flynn was so standing against this deal with Iran. And anybody who stood against that deal was in the same boat as him. I mean, was Flynn spied on even back then? It's very possible that he was. So this is an article that kind of ticks you off because, yeah, he was doing this all throughout his presidency. I don't know exactly when he started, but, a lot of people were targeted by the Obama administration. And then I wanted to show you this. Now, I would really love to go through this whole thread with you because I think he's got some good stuff here. If you remember in the last video, we talked about how there was likely a failed coup that happened. They were planning on attacking the White House itself, but they didn't succeed. And they were probably going to have snipers that were going to start shooting, and then that would cause the military, the National Guard, to start shooting, and the cops, and it was going to end up being kind of a bloodbath type thing. Well, this goes along the same thing, and he says, on Wednesday, June 3rd, A.G. Barr revealed to the vile press and the despotic D.C. denizens what he and President Trump had done to foil their insurrection and hopes for a Kent State 2.0, where protesters would die at the hands of the U.S. military in a severe crackdown. And then he goes on, he says, the stage had been set by the Democratic governors and mayors, a perfect storm of chaos that would force Trump to act arbitrarily, Americans being killed as their neighbors were ravaged and savaged by rioters, looters, and arsonists. Trump's number one job is to protect Americans. The Democrat governors and mayors were not activating their National Guard to restore order, and in many cities the mayors were having the police stand down and giving the mob space to destroy. This was all done trying to get Trump to send in regular military without their permission. And this is what I was saying in that. So again, I'm not going to go on with this. I'll leave the link down below if you want to read the rest of it, but he has quite a lot of threads here, a lot of different tweets, and, it's got some good information. So I will leave the link for you down below, and you can read it on your own. We have this article by Politico because, yes, Trump is going to restart the MAGA rallies this month despite coronavirus. Okay, here's the deal. It says in here that it's going to be like in 2 weeks. All right, when did the riots start? And what should happen in 2 weeks after the riots when it regards the coronavirus? Yep, there should be this whole great big spike. Well, when that doesn't happen, then they're not going to have any reason to say you can't have a Trump rally. See? It's beautiful. It's really going to work. And there's no way that they can complain about a Trump rally after having all those rioters and looters out there with hardly any masks on and definitely not keeping their social distance. And, there weren't even just rioters and looters. In the protesters themselves, there were doctors and nurses and people that have been ranting and railing about how dangerous this virus is and how contagious it is, and yet they were there, right in the thick of it. So why weren't they worried about that? I don't think so. So this whole thing, when it comes out, he's given it enough time because the incubation period is 2 weeks, and it will be well past 2 weeks by the time this rally happens. I don't know where it's going to be. It doesn't say that it says they're looking for places, but when that rally happens, you can bet people are going to complain about it, and he's going to come back and say, yeah, why weren't you complaining about the protesters? And where's that big spike we were supposed to have after the protesters were all there together? So I don't know. Maybe there will be a spike. I just don't think so. But anyway, leave this article down below. It's from Politico, but they're kind of mad about it. But I think it's wonderful. I'm anxious to see him. I kind of miss him. I really miss him. All right, and then President Trump had this to say. He said, I have retained highly respected pollster McLauglin and Associates to analyze today's CNN poll and others, which I felt were fake based on the incredible enthusiasm we are receiving. Well, remember, if you saw my last video, I started out, or a couple videos ago, I started out with him going to Maine, and the people were lining the streets and cheering and everything. That's where he gets every time he goes somewhere. And so he said, read analysis for yourself. This is the same thing they and others did when we defeated crooked Hillary Clinton in 2016. They are called suppression polls and are put out to dampen enthusiasm. Despite 3.5 years of phony witch hunts, we are winning and will close it out on November 3rd. And then here's this letter. Now, it's a little hard to see at this point. Let me bring it up. And basically, it says the last skewed media polls must be intentional. It's clear that NBC, ABC, and CNN, who have Democrat operatives like Chuck Todd, George Stephanopoulos, and other Democrats in their news operations, are consistently underpolling Republicans and therefore reporting biased polls. They continue to poll adults or registered voters that skew away from likely voters. Now, there's a difference between somebody who's a registered voter and someone who is a likely voter. You can be registered, but if you're going to say, oh, I'm not even going to vote, I have a couple of neighbors I'm working on because both of them have said, I am not going to vote. And it's like, no, you need to vote. You really need to vote. So they're not even dealing with that. I mean, they're dealing with people like my neighbors. And it's like, no, you need likely voters, people that are probably going to vote. That's who you should be polling. And it says, so instead of the 33% Republican turnout, which actually happened in 2020, they are reporting polls on only 26%, 25%, or even 24% Republicans. So, see, that's the issue. They're giving, less people that are Republicans. So when they have this poll, they're getting less of a Republican response. And so it really does skew it. Anyway, I'll leave this. You can read the whole document down there if you want to. But I thought that you'd be interested in seeing that. Okay. Well, they're saying that the polls are going down, and then they're trying to say all these Republicans are not going to vote for you. Look, George W. Bush isn't even going to vote for you. Well, guess what? George W. Bush's spokesperson says New York Times article claiming he won't be voting for Trump is completely made up. So, that's not necessarily true. Now, we don't know who he's going to vote for. We don't know that he's going to vote for Trump. That's definitely not out there. And, it's very possible he might not. But see, this is how the New York Times works. They don't even care that they made it up. It was completely made up. I just, you know what? I'm working on something about China, and I got to tell you, that deception plays such a role in what we're seeing that there are so many people, people like me, I see things as true and false. And for me to purposely deceive somebody, it's just not in me. I don't do that. And yet, there are people out there who thrive on deception. And so, yeah, it's just not right. And when you talk about the New York Times and making things up, fake news for sure. Okay, well, this is not fake news. I don't know if you've been following this, and this has nothing to do with all the riots and everything. I just stuck it in there because I thought it was kind of interesting and you might want to see it. So evidently, Prince Andrew, there's been some kerfuffle over in England about Prince Andrew. And somebody supposedly leaked from the DOJ, not a good person who did it, but they were trying to say that Prince Andrew's supposed to be indicted or something. Well, that has not come up, and they do want him to testify, and he's been willing to do it, but he has been dragging his feet a little bit about coming over here, I think. And I'm not real sure exactly what the deal is. But this right here indicates that he's not as willing as he's been putting on in the show. I mean, that's what he's been putting out to the press over in the UK. But evidently, according to this, he's not very willing to help. So they, said, if Prince Andrew is in fact serious about cooperating with the ongoing federal investigation, our doors remain open and we await word of when we should expect him. So, interesting. Not sure exactly what all's going on there, but I thought I'd bring that to you. And then this is just another one I'm just tossing in. Just in case you are interested in this topic, there's a fluoride case that's going to be in court, and it's a biggie, so it could be something that could make a huge difference. It was set to begin in San Francisco on Monday, June 8th. So again, with these, when I give you these, down at the bottom is where they'll have the link to it. That's the sauce, right? That's what we call it. And then this one, real quick, Hillary Clinton calls Trump a failure, suggests Trump supporters don't have a beating heart. So there you go. We are a failure. And I think she also said that we had no brain. She didn't know how anybody with a brain and a beating heart could vote for him. I think that's what she said. So, yeah. Anyway. And then Nancy Pelosi, the president must immediately reopen Lafayette Square to the public. Or I should say it. The president must immediately reopen Lafayette Square to the public. And the unique park should be a symbol of freedom and openness, not a militarized zone behind which President Trump cowers in fear of protesters who are crying out for justice. He's not even been there. He's been to Maine. He's been other plaplaces. It's like he doesn't care. Oh, they are just, and here's the letter. It's just whining. Okay, I'm not even going to read it to you, but I'll leave the link down below if you want to read it on your own. It's just, yes, you can't do this. You must leave it open. You can't, You need to totally unprotect yourself. I think she's probably ticked because they had a failed coup. So anyway, but look at this. Tom Fitton has this one. New York Police Department finds concrete disguised as ice cream at George Floyd protests. Is that scummy or what? Oh, yeah, let's make people think it's ice cream that we're holding, when in reality, it's something we're going to throw at you and knock you out cold. Oh, just can't believe they would do that. Creeps. Okay, and then this is from Catherine Herridge. She has a list of federal riot cases charged as of 4:45 today from DOJ, plus 35 cases, plus 45 individuals. Alleged attacks on officers, homemade explosives and Molotov cocktails, inciting violence, illegal possession firearms, burning patrol cars, looting, damage, government property, all kinds of stuff. And you can go through here and you can see them if you want. Again, you have to kind of go bigger to see them. But that's the kind of stuff she's got on there. And so there have been some people who have been arrested. And it is happening. It's just a matter of, getting all the information out there. So happening. And speaking of happening, this one is a study finds vulnerabilities in online voting tool used by several states. Are you surprised? No, let's not be surprised. Oh, it says here, we conclude that using Omni Ballot for electronic ballot return represents a severe risk to election security and could allow attackers to alter election results without detection. Gee, sounds like just something that the Democrats would appreciate, right? Researchers said a malware virus on a voter's device could manipulate their ballot selections, and that Democracy Live did not do enough to protect the private information of voters from use in disinformation campaigns or targeted ads. And so I think it's, kind of scary. It says, bottom line, Omni Ballot's ballot delivery and marking can be valuable tools for helping voters participate if officials take precautions we suggest. Online voting, however, is a severe danger to election integrity and privacy, and we urge jurisdictions not to deploy it. You think they will? I don't know. They're going to push for it, probably. So then I've got this one. All right. If you got a weak stomach, you might not want to see this one, because guess what? Yeah, Fredo here was caught appearing naked in his wife's yoga video. Don't worry, nothing bad, but still, more of him than you want to see. So here she was doing a live Instagram video doing yoga, and he's cruising around in the backyard without his clothes on. Okay, now, who cruises around in their backyard? Don't they have kids? I thought they did. Oh, that's more of him than I want to see. Okay, so, like this one says, do people walk around naked in their own yard in this cell phone age? Why would you do that? He just hangs outside naked? I'd hate to live in his neighborhood. I mean, serious. And because he had a family, and, he was supposed to be away from them and in the basement, and we know he was lying on that, and then he went out, and a bicyclist caught him. And so, it's so crazy. But anyway, I'll leave the link to this down below. You can scroll fast past the picture, but, yeah, so he got caught with his butt sticking out. So anyway, this is an update on the Flynn hearing. This is going to be this Friday. Yoo-hoo! I'm looking forward to it, because they got some splaining to do, and we're going to see what happens. And he says Principal Deputy Solicitor General Jeff Wall will be arguing for the U.S. in support of dismissing the case. Mr. Wall clerked for Justice Thomas and has argued numerous cases before the Supreme Court. Good choice by the DOJ. And there it is on the docket. So, yay for that. Nice to hear. I like, keeping up on that. Friday's going to be interesting. And then This was interesting too. I mean, really. George Floyd's family petitions United Nations to help them defund police in the United States. Now, what in the world does the United Nations have to do with what's going on with our police in the United States? You know, I think they were going to push for that they were hoping that it'd get so bad with these riots that the United Nations would come in and they would have to be peacekeepers here. I think that's what they were really hoping. It's just kind of stupid, though, because we do have the National Guard and the military. But I just think this is crazy that they went to the United Nations to complain about the United States policing. And, this is insane. You read this and it just ticks you off. So I'll leave the link down below. Let you get ticked off on that on your own. This was a really good interview with the former acting DNI Richard Grenell, and this was his first interview since he left with Tucker Carlson, and the link's down here to the actual video right here. And so they were talking about the different things that he did, declassifying stuff, and he had a really good perspective on how outsiders coming in and why outsiders, when they come into this, like he did, they kept saying, oh, he's not qualified and all of this, because in the deep state and the career bureaucrats there, the way to do it is you start in on a lower level position and you work your way up. And so by the time you get up to the top, you're so indoctrinated that you're going to toe the I want to say party line, but it's not, because they're not elected. They are supposed to be nonpartisan, but they all have these, this agenda, because career bureaucrats know so much better how to run the country than the people that we elect. At least that's what they think. So I really appreciated his perspective on that, and I think you'd like to hear that. This is funny. You gotta watch this, okay? It's kind of sad that it only has 1,200 views, 1,236 views. So this is worth it. It's about the only time you'll ever hear Bill Gates speak the truth. So it's well worth watching. This was kind of a backfire. The Democrats tried to do something, and it backfired big time, because here they were doing this big thing. They wore this kente fabric, and this lady goes, I had to say something about the American politicians shameless and ignorantly using the kente fabric as a prop in their virtue signaling. I'm usually more mild-mannered than this, so please forgive me. I'm upset. So all of them, they were blasting them. There were all kinds of them. It's just too funny. See, they were trying to, oh, here we are. So there's more kente fabric in this picture than at a Ghanaian traditional wedding. The DC African fabric shop is probably now sold out in order to meet the demand of this ridiculous tokenism by Democrat politicians. Dear Africans, step aside. Cultural appropriation at its worst. So it's too funny on that. I mean, the Anons brought up a whole big bunch, so I'll leave this. You can read through some of them. That one, and then this one. Well, that was the one I showed you, and then this one. So evidently, the Chinese have a word for people that do this, and it's this baizhou, I don't know. Anyway, this is the word. And so, I thought it was pretty interesting. Here's the thing with it. So, China apparently has a word for a person who's excessively virtue signaling to gain validation for themselves. These types of people have the lowest self-esteem. I've said it for years. Oh, no, I disagree with that. People like Nancy Pelosi, their problem is not a low self-esteem. It's an arrogance. Oh, pure and simple arrogance. Anyway, and speaking of arrogance, it goes right into this one really well, because James Comey wrote an op-ed to the Washington Post called My Advice to Police Officers on Handling Criticism. And he goes through and he talks about, well, there are some dirty cops, but you gotta rise above that. And I'm thinking, don't you understand? You're like the dirtiest cop of all. And when I got done reading it, I had to post on his comment, because he put it on Twitter, and I had to comment on it because it's like reading Comey telling these cops how to get rid of dirty cops and to run the law enforcement in a good, honest way is kind of like a child molester telling parents how to raise their children. So it's like, no, we don't, you don't know that. He's not dealing with reality. I tell you, these guys are very off base now. But yeah, if you want to laugh, read through this and just think, I cannot believe Comey is so arrogant to be doing this. Oh. So, this was something that happened to Candace Owens. You probably know her. And she had a GoFundMe account that she started for one of these, this Parkside Cafe in Birmingham, Alabama, because he made a comment. He insulted Floyd and called the people protesting his death idiots in a text message to co-owner Robert Bagwell. And so at that point, things went really south. And of course, Candace Owens started, this GoFundMe for him because all the guy did was talk about the truth and give his opinion, but that's not allowed. And so, of course, she got taken down, the whole thing. She had $205,000 in it. And they halted it because they said they deemed that funds raised for a conservative business constitutes intolerance. Well, of course, they didn't say it that way, but here's how they said it. But anyway, so yeah, I'll leave that one too. And then I'm going to end with this one. I know it's been a little bit of a whirlwind, but there were so many things, and I thought they were all worth at least seeing about. If any of them really interest you, you can go down and you can take the link and you can delve into them more. But this one right here is from Carter Page, and he says, don't worry, Lindsey Graham, if the FBI still keeps blocking the Senate Judiciary, which, remember, we talked about that in the last video about how someone is blocking a few of these people from testifying. You can read about Case Agent 1's life-threatening misdeeds in Chapter 4 of my new book this summer, 9+ months of terror, some of the filthiest dirty cop tactics in history. I want to read it. I've got so many books. Oh, there's so many I'm trying to read. Right now I'm reading one on China. And I got to tell you, folks, when I get done, I'm going to give you some notes on it because, it's eye-opening. Just so eye-opening. But anyway, there's the actual link. And we talked about that, I think, in the last video. So anyway, that's what I've got for you on this one. I want to thank you for stopping by, and I'll see y'all later.